Ladies and gentlemen of the old world, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between the Empire and Nurgle. It's going to be myself with Karl Franz, the Prince and Emperor, facing off against Orange Pest, the Dreadlord of Company of Heroes 3, and he is going to be using a Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Nurgle. Now, as far as my build goes, it's going to be a lot of Pistoliers. These units are amazing against Nurgle. They're very fast, they're very furious, and you can use them to shoot down Furies. And oh, is Franz giving a speech right now? Oh, awesome. That was a really good speech. All right, we caught the end of it. But it is going to be Pistoliers. Good skirmishing machine, good against light armor, just good utility and capture weight on the battlefield. Now, Franz is not meta here. The meta against Nurgle, and Nurgle, the way they usually beat the Empires with infantry spam and just pressuring the objectives. So typically you're going to want to have a Burning Headcaster with, maybe Boris Todbringer or some of the other choices that you have access to. But, Franz is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. He's a magic damage character with huge hard-hitting stats at 56 and 490 for his offensive stat line. So you can use him to bully the Nurgle Exalted Heroes and things like that. It requires a bit of finesse, but Franz always needs babysitting with a little bit of a Jade Wizard action as well. Now down here, we do have the Warrior Priest. Now this is a tech I'm experimenting with against Nurgle because he has a banner called the Banner of Eternal Flame. Now this is really good against Nurgle because if you're in a blob fighting Nurgle, for example, he's not only going to be increasing their damage, but also giving fire attacks, which mitigates Nurgle healing. So, I mean, that seems pretty good to me, right? Aside from that, Knights of the Black Rose, they're really good against infantry, and Nurgle loves to spam infantry, so I think the Knights of the Black Rose will be quite excellent here, and that's more or less it for my army with some free company up on the high ground. Now, for the armies of the Pest, he is going to be using Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Nurgle on the Rot Beast, and he's doing spell spam, which is the meta in this matchup. So Miasma, Curse of the Leper, and Stream, perfect. Those are the spells that you bring usually if you're going to be doing spell spam. So the idea is you bring a bunch of infantry, although his build's slightly off meta. The Cultists were the old meta against the Empire. Nowadays, it's just mass infantry with Pestigors. Backed up by, Marauders and whatnot. But this works, and he's got Festering Stooges here, Chaos Warriors. It's hard. Those little cultists can be really tough to remove off the points for the Empire, but Franz is a good scalpel, so he can get the job done. Objective 1 going to be going to us. Objective 2, and on the high ground, we're going to have a 10-year war between the Frolickers, Bubonic, and the Free Company Militia, which I think the Frolickers will win after like 30 minutes. Hard to say. But Knights of the Black Rose going to be not couching lances, drawing their swords, and charging into the Foul Barbarian. So here they go, and getting a big charge right there on both those units. The other Heretic unit here does get run down as well, and takes a lot of damage on impact. So despite not being a shock cav unit, honestly, pretty solid performance. And my opponent did use Curse of the Leper, which is a good play, if I did notice. I did notice it, pull out of combat, and now the Grenades of Sigmar have arrived. So very much like a mobile powder build here, now going to be retreating away from some of the infantry there. So Knights of the Black Rose did some good shock damage. Nurgle infantry here a little bit beat up, and we are, of course, up on points, but that's going to be short-lived, as our entire army's kind of mobile and hit and run. I didn't notice this until like a good 8 minutes into the game. I was like, oh my god, there's Nurglings up there. And we did do a little bit of damage, but their healing and their damage reflection will probably end up winning them the day. Down here, it is going to be Knights of the Black Rose charging into the Marauders once again. And the Sorcerer Lord, this is good usage, using him on his Rot Beast because he's a very good fighter. And he's going to be hunting down the Outriders with grenade launchers and just causing havoc overall. Pistoliers are encircling, and the Festering Stooges are on their way in. My opponent does have the objective here with some Marauders, as well as a Cultist, and that's tough to deal with for sure. We're not going to be able to uproot them. My idea was I'm just going to sit the Pistoliers here and use all their ammo and just get to as much damage as I can and maybe get it later, but in retrospect, bringing them over to the middle would have been the better play. So, Knights of the Black Rose and Grenade Launcher shooting away, but Chaos Warriors are absolute Giga Chads against grenades. They don't really care too much. You can see the Grenade Launcher salvo barely does any damage, so their 100 armor and durability is no joke. But Knights of the Black Rose will beat them in combat. It takes a long time because of the high armor and melee defense, but they do eventually get through them with their bonus versus infantry as well as their respectable durable armor that they have at 120. So we're going to be fighting it, but we do see Curse of the Leper activated, I believe. Yeah, that's actually pretty good on those Chaos Warriors. I didn't notice that. So look at my Black Rose Knights doing a ton of damage against themselves. So really good usage of that, quit hitting yourself, the classic meme here. Fury's coming overhead to dive into my back line as the points are not really going too far. Mainly just kind of a duel of fates here as the two armies do clash. The Chad Warrior Priest, this is what you guys are here for. He's a light in the darkness. Oh, that's so cool. But yeah, he's going to be fighting the demons and giving the flame banner to the boys, but he gets a little bit trapped up here, which is unfortunate. I try to escape with him, but his knights get away, but he doesn't really, so that will spell a little bit of trouble later on. Festering Stooges with their Unholy Hand Grenades peppering. Grenade launchers have set up shop here and are nuking into the Chaos Warriors and getting some respectable damage over time, as we are being hunted pretty fervently by these Furies. Stream of Corruption going down does tickle my two grenade launchers, doing a little bit of damage, but more importantly, triggering an army-wide heal for my opponent. They're trying to get away from the Furies, and we do detach some Knights of the Black Rose from the mainline combat, and they do manage to get into combat with the Furies, and they're a hard counter against Furies. Furies get ripped to shreds by Black Rose Knights because of their bonus force infantry, so it's very, very good. That's why they're my preferred cav in this matchup. Blazing Suns can work too. You can use Blazing Suns. They're also very, very good. Just really depends on your style, and do you want to cycle charge more, or do you want to leave them in combat and kind of forget about them? If that's the case, then bring Black Rose Knights. But the objectives do belong to the Plague Father. Objective 1 here, Objective 2, and the high ground objective, the 30-year war, is being lost by my free company, like we talked about. The Nurglings here are just more durable, and they have, they have the poison, they have the blister back thing, which gives them damage reflection, and are just an absolute little gremlin squad. Karl Franz, Prince and Emperor, trying to take this game into his hands a little bit. Going to be bashing up some Chaos Warriors, but blunder by me. I do sit right in front of the Festering Stooges and eat a full salvo, but thankfully they were out of ammunition. The Warrior Priest got surrounded over here, but he did do a Giga Chad Soulfire Bombardment before. He is going to break, but don't worry, he will return. His faith in Sigmar is wavering here, but it will be reinforced in just a moment. So Grenade Launcher shooting into advancing infantry as the objective on the top is finally going to start swinging in our favor. I did send my Knights of the Black Rose up there, a beat-up unit, mind you. But they do arrive, and they're good against Nurglings and against Fury, so I don't think they'll win this 2v1, but they'll be able to hold, and I do have some reinforcements. The Sigmar Suns on their way in, some Unbreakable Troopers, so hoping they'll be able to get the job done. On the backside, Chaos Sorcerer hunting down the Outriders with grenade launchers, but Franz and his Jade Wizard going to be engaging against the Sorcerer, hopefully able to connect. Franz, of course, will smash this guy in combat, and the Warrior Priest has returned, so I was very happy about that. And was certainly stressing the objective situation. So this one does get secured by the Plague Father, it looks like, as another Marauder does arrive. Black Rose Knights, look how solid they are, though. Even at, like, what? They were at, like, 30%, if even. They're able to really do a lot of work against these Furies and also take down the Frolickers here. And Sigmar Suns and Flagellants are heading to the high ground objective, so I'm hoping I'll be able to wrestle that. Now, I saw an opportunity over here. My opponent didn't have a whole lot on Objective 1. It was just one Raggedy Marauder, so I was like, all right, let's go for this. So we're going to get this. Knights of the Black Rose going to be reinforcing. Free Company Militia on the way, while the fighting continues to rage on in the middle of the map. Grenade Launcher is doing good work. They're basically just stalking after the Plague Bearer RORs here, the Festering Stooges, and getting some nice salvos, some nice splash damage. That's an incredibly hard unit to get down, so any sort of work you can do to wear those bad boys is going to be incredibly good. High ground's most likely going to go to us. We do have the Sigmar Suns, as well as the Flagellants heading over there to grab that. Meanwhile, over towards objective number 1 here, we do have the Knights of the Black Rose hanging firm, and Pistoliers are hanging, but getting harried by Furies. I didn't notice those guys. And Forsaken are really good butchers of Empire Infantry. They will pretty much crush all your Empire Troopers except Greatswords. Greatswords do beat them, but aside from that, they're really, really good. Fast, they can get to the back line. For Nurgle, that's a really valuable trait to have, like speedy infantry. I mean, that's awesome, right? So we're fighting here. It's pretty ugly. Knights of the Black Rose fighting Forsaken. Free Company Militia holding back the Marauder Tide. Pistoliers do get ripped up by Furies pretty good. So unfortunately, I'm going to be forced to retreat. But we are rotating over. The Warrior Priest is on his way. And he's going to be with his homie, the Jade Wizard. And we're going to be trying. But Nurgle is full of tricks. The Grandfather's Garden opens into real space, as there are going to be some Plague Bearers coming out. And this is going to make the fighting on the objective incredibly tough, as the desperate Empire Troopers fight tooth and nail here to hold this valuable ground. Over here, Knights of the Black Rose, though, doing good, butchering the Forsaken. Fran's going to be coming in with the Warrior Priest, giving the fire damage, and bringing me to my men. He is here with Galmaraz. He's going to be trying to salvage it. Cultists causing problems at the backfield. And we do have a 2-cap for now. Objective number 3 is looking pretty good for us. The Sigmar Suns and the Flagellants will be able to win this respective fight, which is going to take a while. Because obviously Flagellants are, they're killy, but they're... Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it won't take as long as you'd think, but the Nurglings are tough to remove, and the Forsaken are coming, and Forsaken hard counter both these infantry, and my opponent's bringing his Lord up here. So I figured I was going to lose that objective, but it's hard, because Nurgle's got me in this awkward position where the middle is so tanky with these armored Chaos Warriors and the Beast of Nurgle and the Cultists. I'm like, I cannot get through those guys. God damn. It is very, very tough. So Pistoliers retreating away. Free Company Militia going to be grinding, but caught up by the Cultists. So we do manage to stabilize this. We'll do a little bit of fast forwarding as we do reposture. Assembling the Pistoliers, and now we have the Royal Altdorf Griffites out as well. So these guys are a great hammer in the late game. Going to be moving them in because I know these Festering Stooges, even though I have the capture weight advantage, that they're going to beat me on this objective eventually just because of their nature. So we got to get the Demogryph Knights in there, the Chosen of Altdorf, to charge into the back. And even though they're anti-large, they still have glorious charge and hit like absolute trucks. So they will be able to beat the Festering Stooges there. Grenade Launcher is also putting some withering fire into the Stooges, so a lot of effort needed to take down that very elite unit. Meanwhile, on the high ground, the Flagellants and the Sigmar Suns are slowly losing. The Sorcerer Lord plus Forsaken really able to do some work over here, and he's looking pretty cool with his Plague Sword, chopping through the boys. No jokes are being had here. And as we look back over to the middle objective, we do see the Sons of Sigmar trying their best. Karl Franz bullies one of the Cultists away, So he does get that cultist shaken and stirred, and grenade launcher is going to be heading back to the middle, trying to use what little ammunition I have to wear down the Chaos Warriors. Just a little bit of withering fire, but I'm really, really out of ammunition now in my pistoliers. They have like a couple volleys left, so it's going to be very, very tough. And it's rapidly getting to a situation where Nurgle could win on 1 point. So that was really making me sweat bullets. Chaos Fury's coming in, trying to hold this one. I do have the double cap for now, so thankfully I am kind of closing the gap. And but yeah, that objective's not going to be long for this world, as Franz continues hunting down his prey. So he chases down the cultists here, breaks those Chaos Warriors, Outriders with grenade launcher shooting into the Plague Bearer unit, but my opponent responds with Fecundity to get those guys healing up, which is very, very nice. And on the backside, this objective is more or less stabilized. Festering Stooges have, what, like 2 models left? Yeah, they're going to die. Dude, 2 freaking models on those Stooges. God, dude. And that's so freaking gnarly. Like, oh my god, 1 leadership. Will they just freaking break? I actually think I thought they were dead at that point in the game. But the grenades wearing it in. Value so far, 1,400 here, and the other ones are at about 700. Franz does manage to break the cultist and send him running, and now he's going to be turning to fight the Beast of Nurgle, which is not a good fight for him. I mean, he would win, obviously, but the Beast is very tanky, has regeneration, and good armor piercing, so it's going to take a while. So we do have the Lifecaster come over, and he casts an overcasted regrowth on Franz, which is going to heal his vigor, as well as his... let's actually see what his vigor ends up at. Yeah, it's vigor reduction of what, 1%? Per second, I believe. Yeah, so he's steady. He's okay. Now he's very tired, so that's so good. That, like, all those stat debuffs that you see on Franz, most of them will probably be mitigated by that. So now he's very tired. Is he going to get to winded? You'll see his stats increase if he does. So very tired, vigor still going, and he still stays at very tired, but certainly better than exhausted, right? So, objective situation's a little bit dodgy. Objective 1 is going to be pretty secure for us over here. Black Rose Knights and Free Company battling that cultist all day, but we're going to leave the Warrior Priest and the Jade Wizard over here to anchor this down and use the rest of my army around the map to adjust as needed. Pistoliers, I'm starting to unsummon them because I was running into an issue where I didn't have anything to unsummon, which is to bring in, because all my units were on the field and nothing was like fully dying. They were being beat up and running out of ammunition, so that was a big blunder, and that's something that potentially could cost me this game. Royal Turf Griffite's going to be screaming up to the high ground, and I send my Spearmen and Spearmen as well as the Knights of the Black Rose to grab this objective here, as my opponent does approach 1,000 points here. And the Black Rose Knights are really excellent. I was kind of wishing I had brought like 4 of them, because Nurgle does bring Rot Knights in occasionally, but against Empire, the meta's infantry spam. Because Rot Knights can be focused down by a lot of the Imperial shooting, right? So they're a little bit risky. Now, another Curse of the Leper may be activated. I'm not sure. Some sort of witchcraft going down, or maybe a debuff. Yeah, Miasma on my unit's going to be lowering their melee attack. Sorcerer Lord on the way, and the Legions of Empire Spearmen, the State Troopers, the Stalwart of Sigmar. They're going to be on their way. On this side, we did use the Chad Warrior Priest to take down... This is very flavorful, by the way. Seeing a Warrior Priest of Sigmar banishing the sickness from the Empire. Very, very cool stuff. I could imagine this being a battle on like the northern territories of the Empire and like, or I don't know, the borders of Norsca or something. You never know. But Cultist does get broken, and we are going to be able to stabilize that objective for sure. Meanwhile, in the middle, 1 Plague Bearer unit does go down. Grenade launchers harassing, and the Royal Altorf Griffites don't want to be fighting a foot-based Cultist. That's not really fun. So we do move up here. Spearmen going to be battling Furies. Spearmen do have 42 melee defense, so they will, I think Empire Spearmen can hold off a Fury. I'm not sure. Maybe 1-to-1 the Fury might win, but with the numbers I have here, they should be able to get the job done. With the Black Rose Knights butchering the Nurgle infantry, the Forsaken getting taken out, and a lot of troops are coming in. So I know I need to run a roadblock, right? Because the objective grabbing here is going to be uber important. So we are going to charge in, and they will make it. Yeah, they're still a little bit tied up on those damn Marauders over there. But the Prince and Emperor is not gonna have this in his neighborhood. He's going to fly down with Galmaraz, and ooh, look at that, the corroded armor. That's pretty cool. That's nasty. But here they go. The Chosen of Mor will be riding downhill, and the Dark Lady of Nuln smiles this day. And that pins down 10 capture weight. So my beat up Black Rose Knight is going to pin down 10 capture weight and also do quite a bit of damage in the process. So really happy about that. And we do manage to rotate and steal the objective from the Plague Ridden. On the other side of the battlefield, looking pretty good. But unfortunately, I believe if my math is correct, my opponent will win on just 1 objective here. So very, very dodgy. So there's going to be a little bit of an intermission here. Not intermission, but, you know, of action. My opponent retreats, and now he's going to be swarming my outside objective, which we do respond with some Spearmen. Should be able to hold that. That's why I left the Warrior Priest and the Jade Wizard to have, like, guaranteed solid sustainable capture rate over there. So they're going to be trying to hold that objective if they possibly can. And now I need to find a way to get the middle. But I know I have a lot of time, right? So it's not the end of the world. I'm like, okay. We got time. Big blunders by me, not unsummoning these units. A little bit rusty, to be honest. But the Free Company and the grenade launchers needed to be unsummoned so I could get them back in the pool, get them out with fresh ammunition. But I was so focused on the micro. And Franz and his Royal Altdorf Griffite's going to be charging down the hill, hunting down these heretics wherever we can. So we do manage to butcher those Forsaken. And now these Marauders, though they are a great open unit, are going to be our next target. So unsummoning and unsummoning on those Flagellants and Sigmar Suns up there. And here comes the big old charge. So down they ride are the Griffites, getting into the Marauders, who are going to break very quickly. I mean, even just a leadership break, right? They're just like cheap chaff units and being charged by what? This is like over 4,000 gold worth of units. So obviously it's going to break them, right? Some cheap units could hold if they're like, excuse me, undead or demonic, but I'm too weak. Yeah, not in this case. So my opponent going for a ninja on the other side to really seal the game. You know, if he captures an objective from me here, I'm probably going to lose. But unfortunately, like I said, he's going to reach 1250 before I reach 1,000. A very easy metric to kind of remember here. I do call my Pistoliers over for a little bit of support. And yeah, they provide the capture weight that's needed. The Warrior Priest and the Jade Wizard are still there. And the Free Company Militia should be arriving soon. Now, France and company are going to be trying to figure out what to do. I got to break through the middle, right? But, you know, I'm like, okay, I have time. So let's not run into his really entrenched cultist position. And what does he have on the cultist? Does he have any debuff spell? No, he didn't bring any of the items. But the Beast of Nurgle, the Sorcerer Lord, a healthy unit of Marauders, and a couple, you know, tattered units here are going to be tough. So I'm like, let's farm some of my opponent's reinforcements. Just go up here, beat these guys down, and then Alpha Strike the middle, right? Go for that. Pistoliers moving to the middle, but being hunted and harried by the Furies, as always. On this side, we should be fine. The Warrior Priest is going to help banish these heretics. So he's got his mighty Warhammer, and is giving a nice little damage buff. And fire damage is relevant against some of the demon units, depending on the circumstances, but not so much here. But yeah, we should be able to hold that. So really, the epicenter of action is going to be on the middle. And we are going to be calling in Flagellants to move up. Pistoliers running away where they can, and the Prince and Emperor in the back just kind of farming a little bit. So we do beat up one of the Marauders here pretty badly. Send them back to the Shadow Realm, trying to get rid of my opponent's capture weight. And we're going to be charging in once again. So Galmaraz leading his men. Franz is such a cool character, man. He's so fun. I use his model in tabletop. Even though Old World technically doesn't have Franz, you still just play him as Galfranz. You do your thing. It is a fantasy game. You enjoy your fantasies. So Plague Bearers here are getting beat up, but it's not a good fight for me, and I'm realizing this. I'm like, you know what? These Plague Bearers probably aren't even going to reach the objective by the time the game's over, so I'm just going to kind of pull back here. But the Flagellants are being intercepted by Fury, so my opponent doing the same thing to me, running roadblocks, sacrificing these units on the Flagellants. It's a good call, and my Pistolier is trying to get in position to steal the objective. And we do also detach some of the units to come down here. So these Flagellants are going to be sprinting down. I know I need to leave some units here. Going all in here is an option, but, you know, he would be able to maybe sneak some Nurglings or some sneaky units over here. So, you know, I'm working with what I got. So pulling back Royal Altdorf Griffites, Knights of the Black Rose, as well as the Outriders. And the Emperor Karl Franz are going to be gathering up and preparing to hopefully out-capture weight my opponent on the middle. So we are going to be taking a charge. Plague Bearers are on their way in, and my opponent approaching 1,400 points. Incredibly stressful here, as the backline here of the Furies do get swarmed. Pistoliers are not great in combat, but they're not useless either. So we do swarm in, get a big surround on those Furies, and with the Flagellants and another unit of Flagellants coming in, I'm hoping we're going to be able to get it. So we do get hit by Curse of the Slug, pretty nasty. Going to be lowering my charge speed, and Franz and the Griffites trying to fight here a little bit, but honestly a pretty bad fight. The Marauders with great weapons and sustained combat will be able to really ground down these units, especially with the Sorcerer Lord nearby. And it does look like Miasma Pestilence is going to be activated. So really, really nice Nurgle magic usage there, certainly stressing me out. Nothing going down to the high ground, a couple of heretics going up there, but the Spearmen should be able to hold them off, and we do manage to break that roadblock. Took long enough, and this is a big, big play here. I basically grab my Griffites and I grab my Knights of the Black Rose, and I intercept the Plague Bearers and the Marauders from getting to the objective, right? And from here, I rally the Pistoliers, who are, of course, a fair amount of capture weight, and we do get a lot of momentum on the objective. So 1430's coming up. Prince and Emperor retreats from the combat. Nurgle going to be coming back onto the objective here, but this is big, blocking the Plague Bearers. He could try and move past me, but honestly, it'd be pretty hard to get that far. That's a lot of distance, and with the Demogryphs attacking you, it would probably hold them back. So capture weight's going in our favor here, and on the top side, Spearmen holding firmly, and the Jade Wizard and his contingent out here should be able to fight off those Nurglings for long enough. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the objective's going to be flipping. The Chosen of Sigmar lands on the ground. Karl Franz banishing the Foul Chaos Lord back to the Warp. Or to the Chaos Waste. He's not a demon, but yeah, it's going to be the Chaos Waste. Negative 11 leadership. He gets broken. The Flagellants do arrive, and with that, it's going to be GG for Reichland. Really fun match. You know, off-meta play for my opponent. We talked about the game afterwards, obviously, from a Nurgle perspective. He would really want some Marauder Horsemen. But, I mean, the mass amounts of infantry were tough. So, you know, there's an argument to be made for the infantry spam, but just probably cutting, like, the Beast of Nurgle and a Forsaken and getting, like, you know, a couple, and the Plague Bearer, getting, like, 3 Marauder Horsemen would make it incredibly harder for me in that game, because they're really good against heavy cavalry and against Karl Franz. But, yeah, fun match. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Sigmar Bless, Franz with 3,400. What a Chad. Warrior Priest 1,000. Black Rose Knights carried pretty freaking hard, and the Demis weren't out that long, but they got 1,200 too. All right, guys, see you around. Sigmar bless, and that's going to be it for today.